Hi there, and welcome to today's vlog. Thank you, as always, for joining me. Just before we go on to today's theme, I want to just go back to what we talked about last week, which was to do with our vision, not just our physical vision, but our spiritual vision. Do we really see what God is showing to us? And in response to my vlog last week, a couple of people have suggested songs or hymns that would go with that theme, both really appropriate. The first one is Be Thou My Vision, O Lord of My Heart. That's a great song, a prayer really that we would be able to see as Jesus sees, and have our eyes open, our spiritual eyes open. And the other one is Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. I want to see you, a longing to see God, to see the things of God, the spiritual reality. So it's great, isn't it, that lots of our modern, indeed, not just the modern ones, but the older ones, songs and hymns actually speak to our human condition, our spiritual journey, our spiritual life. So those two, Be Thou My Vision and Open the Eyes of My Heart, Lord, are really good ones that would go with what I was talking about last week. Right, on to this week. And I've mentioned before a devotional book that I've been using recently by Eddie Askew. It's called Music on the Wind. And it's looking really at the life of David, meditations and prayers. And I find that really helpful. And it's interesting that as you're reading a book, sometimes something jumps out at you. In one particular day, Eddie Askew was talking about the sadness of how King Saul's life ended. It began so brightly, so hopefully, when Saul was chosen by God to be the first king of Israel. And he was great in stature, but also he was close to God. He had God's Spirit working within him, and things seemed to be going well. But sadly, as often seems to be the case, he went off the rails a bit, and particularly when David came on the scene, Saul became insanely jealous of David, and indeed he tried to kill him. Those ill feelings, that jealousy, that bitterness grew within Saul's heart, so much so that God decided that Saul was no longer to be his chosen king, and David was anointed to be the future king. It took some years before that actually came to be, but Eddie Askew talks about this, what's happening in Saul's life, this bitterness, this unforgiveness, that's really eating away at him. I just want to read something that he writes as a response to what's happening in Saul's life. It's always sad to hear someone say, I'll never forgive him for some real or imaginary hurt, or even, yes, I can forgive him, but he'll have to make the first move. It doesn't work that way. Forgiving is an essential part of our spiritual survival, not just our spiritual growth. Resentment sows the seed of destruction, and by holding on to it, we kill ourselves by degrees. Strong words, but true. So it is saying when we're able to forgive, that not only releases the person we've forgiven, but actually it releases chains in us. And if we hold on to that bitterness, that unforgiveness, that resentment, it's like an acid eating away in us, or a cancer, really. And probably we all know someone has suffered or is suffering from cancer, and what a horrible thing that is. And unforgiveness is like a cancer eating away at our spiritual lives. Resentment sows the seed of destruction, and by holding on to it, we kill ourselves by degrees. That's really powerful words, isn't it? So really saying it's no use waiting for the other person to make the first step. We've got to do that. We've got to offer forgiveness. It's certainly in our hearts. Don't hold on to those resentments, those bitternesses, those jealousies. Let them go. And we find that we are freed ourselves. And I want to finish really by reading a little bit of a poem that he's written in response to that. But first, I'll just say that when I was at school, there was a certain guy in our year who something happened between us and we stopped speaking to each other. We had nothing to do with each other. And I left school, and that was still the case. And then sometime later, I can't remember how long, I thought I need to sort this out. So I wrote to him and said, look, if I've done something that caused that rift between us, then I ask for your forgiveness. And he wrote back and said, well, I don't know what it was about anyway, but let's be friends. And that just sorted it out. But we need sometimes to take the first step and resolve those issues, offer forgiveness, say let's make up, let's put the past behind us, and just get on with our relationship. Jesus said on one occasion, if you're going to church to worship and you realise that you've got something against someone, go and sort that out with them first, and then come and offer God your worship. So that's really a powerful image, isn't it? Anyway, let me read this bit from Eddie Askew. It's really a prayer. Lord, break the chains that hold me to my ills, that multiply my rancour. Give me the freedom to forgive, to open wide my life and welcome those I've fought against so long and bitterly. Help me to look and see in them, however faint, your image, and acknowledge that you love them against the odds as you love me. That way is life. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening today.